This is Saga!
Greetings, Warlords. Rodge here. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. Today we are joined by James. James, how's it going, man?
Hey, doing well, Rodge. How are you?
Good. So, 300th episode here, and we're recording this in advance, but I needed to get ready. I needed to have somebody online because it seemed a perfect opportunity to do the Spartans. So this faction, I think definitely has some new player appeal, wouldn't you say, James?
Oh, absolutely. I think when people are taking a look at either of the Ancients books, Spartans are one of the first things they always ask about, and how they play, what do they like, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So how old were you when the movie 300 came out? I was
Oh,
early
man,
20s, so
Yeah,
target
what was
market
that?
for me.
20, what would that be? 20, what, 08, 09? Something
Yeah,
like
probably
that.
close to 20 years ago now. I hate to
I know,
say.
right? Yeah, no, I was, let's see, I think it would have been out of college, just getting into grad school at that point. I remember a bunch of friends and I in grad school all went to see it together and
Yeah.
had a great time. And, we always jokingly refer to it as the very accurate historical documentary 300.
Yes. Yeah, great movie when it came out. The legacy, of Zack
And,
Snyder and stuff kind of went downhill.
yeah,
But
I
I
think
think
it really
it's
did get a lot of people interested in
Mhm.
in that era and what actually happened. So regardless of the Hollywood stuff, I think it was probably a jumping off point for a lot of people's interest in ancient history, and I think that's a great thing, regardless of whether or not you even like the movie.
definitely. So fortunately, I feel like in Saga, there's kind of some bad voodoo or just bad luck, or with the kind of factions that appeal to newer players the
Sure.
most. So I
Yeah.
would say the Vikings, are the natural jumping off point for many
Yep.
people, but they're kind of a difficult warband to play.
They are. Yep.
The sacrifice mechanic get you in trouble. I actually don't recommend using it that much.
Yep.
The Knights Templar. So
Mhm.
Militus Christi was always, in first edition, it was kind of an easy warband to play, and
Mm.
second edition with Age of Crusades became a very difficult warband to play. It's all Hearthguard and
Sure.
warriors, and some of the mechanics there were kind of difficult
Yep.
to wrap your head around. So the Knights Templar, I think, is something that appeals to a lot of people, but have to get
Yep.
in. Recently with the English and Age of Chivalry, just had a faction review on that. It came out in July, and again, something that probably appeals to a lot of new players, but it's kind of a difficult warband to play. Maybe not the way that you think it should play is, how it should be run. Bigger units of warriors and maybe a little more melee focus than shooting focus. So I think the Spartans, I think from like a power point, are pretty good. It's just that
Yep.
I cannot really recommend the Greek city states board and the mechanics and stuff. It's in Ancients, the boards there are a little more complicated, just
They
kind
are.
of across the board. And I think the Greek city states would even take that up a little notch. And just the way everything works, if this is your first time of Saga, playing the Spartans, I think, again, will probably not be what you think it will be.
And just
kind of-
flipping through the book here,
Yeah.
I see they've rated them as a 2-star difficulty,
Okay.
or whatever that's
so,
worth.
So middle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from like the PowerPoint it's good. It doesn't have the issue of some of the others, just the complicated mechanics of
Yes.
the phalanx and the line of battle
Yes.
and form line ability. So my local buddy Zach, he's a Viking through and through, so he picked up the Spartans.
I did the same thing. I started off with Vikings and had similar issues with them, I guess you might say. Although I will say your faction review of them helped me out a lot, and
Cool.
definitely set me on the right course with the Vikings. I feel like I'm a little bit of a better player with it now. Although I play them as Yams Vikings a lot, like a lot of other players
Sure,
do.
yeah.
I just found that the Yams were a little more fun to play. Plus, you get the Dane axes, so you don't
Yes,
have
a
that with
big
the regular
giant
Vikings.
choppy axe.
So I did the same thing. Yeah, although this was not my first ancient faction, but I gravitated to them pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. I think it's pretty kind of more probably one of the easier ones to paint up. You can go super
No doubt.
small
No
if
doubt.
you want.
Yep. You're doing a bronze dry brush and red cloaks, and you're off to the races.
Yep.
It's great.
So probably the quickest to paint up.
Oh yeah. And they look great. I mean, it's just they're very striking. Not that, like the multicolored Athenians don't look great, and not that, the Persians with the cool colored shields don't look great, but the Spartans are just very striking on the battlefield, especially with all of the different manufacturer figures out there. Yeah, we got a lot of good choices.
Yeah, very cool. I was going to say with Zach, so he came from the Viking world, but our first couple of games are pretty rough because there's a lot of, are you sure you want to do that? And it's like, well, you can do that, but just remember, you're going to lose phalanx. You're not going to be in the line of battle anymore.
Yep.
Or a lot of me say, well, okay, well, don't forget about that guy. Why don't you bring him up?
Right.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you? So there's a lot of factors going into playing the warband with the form line and the line of battle and stuff that he was kind of having trouble to wrap his head around. So today you provided some little photo diagrams for us. So that's a great idea. I didn't think of that. Yeah. So you'll help us go through that. So this video is going to be particularly with the beginner in mind. So the way that the warband is set up is the Spartans are a sub-faction of the Greek city-states, which has three other factions, maybe.
Yeah, we got the Athenians, we got the Spartans, Thebans, the Thessalians. Yep. So there's a lot of variety. And once you learn how to play the Greek board, you're getting several sub factions that have very different feels to them. So I think it's definitely worth your time as a Saga player to learn the Greek board, just so that you have access to all of those sub factions, because they're all really, really fun and interesting, and bring a lot of variety.
Some options there. Paint one, play many kind of deal.
For sure.
So we're just gonna try to limit our discussion purely to how it relates to the Spartans. But I mean, most of our chat will apply to the other ones, but probably at some other point I'll have somebody on just to talk more about those other factions. So that is going to be our focus today. And why don't we just hop into it? So with the equipment options here, and I do have to say, so I've been saying Spartans the whole time, and these guys are actually the Lacedaemonians. So I have read stuff. I believe Lacedaemonia is what Sparta was called in those times. Do you have any special knowledge on that, James?
No, not beyond agreement with that. It's they're somewhat used interchangeably, I think. But
okay,
I think popularly we would call them Spartans. I think they may have called themselves Lacedaemonians. But.
Yeah, I've read different novels and stuff. Sometimes it's Sparta, sometimes it's Lacedaemonia. So even there, as a new player trying to find the Spartans, it's a little tricky here, but these guys are the Spartans. And so the warlord, he fights on foot without equipment. So he's got the spear and shield, essentially. He has the Spartan special rule. The Hearth Guards are the same. They fight on foot. They have the Spartan and Phalanx special rules. So spear and shield. Warriors, similar. They do not count as Spartans. So that's a important point here. I think maybe
that's a very important players.
Point.
We'll be talking about that a lot. Yep.
So again, spear and shield. These are the guys going into the Phalanx. And then the last one. This is kind of an interesting little thing here in the game of Saga. This is quite unusual. A single unit of up to 8 figures can be equipped with javelins and mounted on horseback. So
Yeah, so if you wanted all 8 of those guys, you would have to bring what? You would have to bring like a point and a half, and then you could do the half point switch out, maybe something like that.
Yeah, so you could. That's a good point. We should explain. So in Saga, you
Sure.
buy 12 levy for a single point.
Right.
So there's a couple ways to get at that 8 number. It's kind of an unusual number. So
Hmm.
you could buy 12 levies and divide them into 2 units of 6. So you can do a foot javelin unit of 6, a mounted unit of 6 on the horses with javelins. You could do, like you say, it's called a half point swap, which is in something that was added in the second edition 2022 rulebook. But basically, you could swap 4 warriors for 6 levy, or 4 warriors for 2 Hearthguard, and kind of use those to bolster a unit. So you could get up to 18 levies, and then you could do a unit of 8 on the horse and a unit of 10 on foot to maximize that. So it's an interesting option. There is a battleboard ability, just specifically seems to be a little nod to the levies. Don't want to completely leave them out.
Yeah, and I mean it's a cool idea, right? You've got this unit of horse levies. They go in, they throw their javelins, maybe they get a guy or two, and then you use we'll talk about it later, but use the ability basically to pull them behind your phalanx. That's a cool idea. So I certainly tried that out when I started with this faction. I did six basically. I did 6 levy and then the half point swap for 4 warriors. And I found that I was spending a lot of dice for not a lot of results.
The
Yeah,
3
so
3 shots.
maybe it's because I was missing the two guys. I don't know, but I just never found that this was worth the hassle, unfortunately. But it's a cool idea.
Okay. So what is your preferred configuration here? Either
So can we switch to that first diagram? Good time to
lately.
do that.
We could.
Okay.
I do want to talk about the phalanx, the Spartan special rule, the phalanx special rule,
Sure.
and the line of battle.
Okay, yeah. So
first,
that's fine. So the way that I typically run them would be definitely 5 points of Hearthguard.
Okay,
Because
that's gonna
we
be
want the phalanx
my
special
question.
rule, we
Yeah.
want the Spartan special rule, and a lot of the battle board depends on the phalanx special rule, and a lot of the positioning and the tactics depend on the Spartan special rule. So how I'm going to sort of arrange them, usually 1 unit of 8, and then the rest are units of 4. And there's some maneuvering reasons for that, which we'll get into
Sure.
when we pull
Okay.
up the diagrams.
Yeah.
And then my last point is going to be for sort of whatever I think I'm going to need for the particular battle. So it may be something like, well, I really want the We Are One ability, so I'm going to go with 8 warriors, and I'm going to keep them at the back, something like that. There's a couple mercenary options that I really like, especially the Cretan archers. Those
Okay. Little
are very
something
good.
your warband doesn't get usually. So
Right,
absolutely,
and
that's
there's
why they're there.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing that supports them on the battle board, so they run as their own little thing. They're very good against elephants, and I have a couple of friends with elephants, so we're
Sure.
actually keeping a running tally of how many elephants our group has killed at this point. We're trying to get to that Carthage level at some point, but I think we're at
Okay.
like 5 or
That's
6,
true.
something like that
Yeah,
right now.
gotta have a
Yeah.
plan for
So
the
you got
elephants
to have a
one way
plan to
or
deal with
the other.
elephants
Yeah.
if you're playing ancients. So a lot of times my 1 point of archers are that plan. But yeah, we can dive more into the mercenaries when we get to that section. But yeah,
Okay.
typically 5 points of Hearthguard and then 1 point of something else. And the way a lot of us run our tournaments here in Ohio is we'll do 7 points, play 6. So you've got 1
So
point
you do
of sort
have
of
that
almost like
versatility.
a sideboard, you might say.
Yeah.
So I can say, all right, my 7 points are, one of the points is 8 points of regular warriors, and then the other point is the archer unit. And depending on what I'm facing, I'll decide at that point which one I'm going with.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to go the Hearthguard route here. That is kind of typically what you see. So the Hearthguards are the ones who have the Spartan rule. I mean, the Warlord had it, but he lacks the Phalanx rule, which is also
And
key.
that is very crippling, unfortunately, for this Warlord. In my experience, he tends to be either sort of a babysitter of the archers, or he's just hanging out in the back. He's not doing much other than pulling fatigue off. But because he lacks that crucial Phalanx rule, almost every ability on the battle board just doesn't apply to him. So that's that can be kind of difficult to work around.
Yeah, especially as a new player, just keep that in mind. That's not what you envision for your Warlord. As
right.
You
expect your Warlord to be badass, like right there on the front lines, kicking people down wells and stuff like that. But the Warlord here does not do that, unfortunately. Although in a pinch, he is 8 dice, and that's cool. And he has, he's got that sort of mobility that the other guys don't have because they have to stay so close together. He can kind of run around on the flank and do stuff, but then you're putting him at risk. So, I don't know that that's always a great idea.
Yeah. So you might imagine, he's a total hot shot, can take out whole units by himself. And
right.
some of the Saga factions, you can accomplish that, or like in a pinch can step up. But just kind of the way this warband was set up, the Greek Warlord is a bit of a letdown or fuddy-duddy, or some would say the weak link, perhaps.
No, I totally agree with that. Yep. No, I would, if he had that Phalanx rule, I would have him right there in the middle with all the other guys contributing his 8 dice. But because he lacks that Phalanx, the battle board doesn't work with him, unfortunately.
Yeah. So something to keep in mind there. So the Hearthguards have the Spartan special rule, which is kind of something extra and sweet. In the game of Saga, there's not a lot of units that have just special rules. Mercenaries have them, but otherwise, for the most part, all the kind of warbands are on an even playing field. But the Lacedaemonians, the Spartans here, get some secret sauce, but it's just for the Hearthguards. Now, for a new player, playing an all Hearthguard warband is actually quite a challenge. I would say that's kind of a challenge level. Of Saga veterans wouldn't typically do that. Most warband configurations, you wouldn't do that because of the special rule here. It kind of makes up for it. But they can, Hearthguards can be vulnerable to shooting, typically things that cause automatic hits. A lot of times in Saga, you're kind of trading pieces, sacrifice a unit to take out another unit. And the Hearthguards, just for a myriad of reasons, are kind of more vulnerable to that kind of thing. I think just keeping that in mind and your expectations is key. But let's take a look at that Spartan rule and see. We're kind of giving ourselves a little bit of a handicap by taking so many Hearthguard, but the Spartan rule, it gives back, James, right?
Oh, no doubt. This is this rule should make anybody that enjoys the idea of playing Spartans very happy, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't you kind of hit us with it?
Sure.
Just kind of in your own.
Yeah. Words. No, this will just be a man reads book thing here.
Okay. Well, that's good enough.
It's just. Yeah, units with the Spartan rule never withdraw from melee when they are the defenders. And that's key. It's very easy to get into your mind, Spartans never withdraw, and then you attack with them and you're like, oh wait, no, they're gonna have to withdraw now.
Yeah. So they bounce off.
Defenders, right. If they are the defenders, they never withdraw. If they should withdraw when they're defending, they instead take an additional fatigue after the melee has been resolved and the opponent has withdrawn. And so this is where the Warlord can come in handy by giving those we obeys to pull those fatigues off. And then when an attacking enemy unit withdraws from melee, the unit that has the Spartan special rule, it suffers an additional fatigue at the end of its withdrawal. And so that is also crucial because that's just going to tire the other guys out. And if they came in with the fatigue and you don't use it, oops, they're exhausted now.
Yeah. So I think the key thing here is you might kind of say that these are connected, which they are, but that last one there, then the key thing is if the opponent comes in and the Spartans win the melee just on their own, they didn't lose, the opponent will withdraw and suffer that additional fatigue after it. So, as long as you like win the melees, you're not, you could think of it tit for tat or whatever. The Spartans take a fatigue, the opponent takes a fatigue, so it's even. But if you win the melee, it's like all it's all gravy. So there are multiple ways you can use the board to ensure that happens. But
absolutely,
you might think that additional fatigue only comes into play when the Spartans were supposed to withdraw. But anytime you fight Spartan Hearthguards or the Warlord, essentially, when you back out, you're going to have 2 more fatigues than when you started. So doing multiple charges and stuff against the Spartans is very, very difficult. Almost impossible, I would say, in most circumstances.
They're set to bounce, I think, just about any unit in the game. Their battle board is very defensive. I would compare them favorably to the Scots from
that's
from Age of Vikings. If you're a Scots player, you've got a Scots player in your group that understands how to play that board. You are well set for understanding, I think, how the at least the Spartan version of the Greek city-state boards plays.
So excellent at holding the line and a lot of abilities to help you win that melee. So you're sort of putting this fatigue on the enemy for free to some extent, but if you do lose the melee, it is kind of a downside. It's a couple bad rolls, bad melees here, or something you find yourself is equally as swamped with fatigue.
There's nothing in this game that can beat bad rolling. So that's just how it goes sometimes.
We do have to mention the Phalanx special rule. So this is just the rule, towards the start of the book. The Macedonians, the Greeks use the Phalanx formation. So in the game, it doesn't give a bonus. You might think, does certain things, but basically the battle board abilities have keyword Phalanx. So they can only be used by units that are Phalanx. So a Phalanx is anything that the book says it's a Phalanx, but it stops being a Phalanx as soon as it no longer generates a Saga dice.
Which is another reason I like the all
Hearthguard,
because a single Hearthguard is always going to generate my Saga die and count as 1 unit in my line of battle. And there are multiple abilities on this battle board that will ask you to count how many units do you have in your line of battle.
So another reason for the Hearthguards. For warriors, they do count. They're more bodies, but if they get down to 3, then they kind of stop being factored into a lot of calculations and can kind of trip you up potentially if you forget that during the planning phase of the turn.
Absolutely. And so if I am running warriors, they tend to be at the back of the line of battle, and they're just there to spread out the bodies to make sure that the guys in front are always within that VS of
there's actually
the 8-pack of warriors back there.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, playing a little bit of the English lately, and same thing too. They have a couple abilities where you got to be close together, and so at certain points, having 8 warriors spread out is a lot easier to do than having 4 Hearthguard at the maximum distance between them. So that makes sense. Also, a Phalanx, if it goes into a building, uneven terrain, or dangerous terrain. So as soon as it touches terrain, that formation breaks up, and you can no longer use those special abilities. So rooting people out of terrain could be tricky.
Terrain is a big problem for anybody with the Phalanx, and especially for the Spartans. And so this is where I like to bring up what I often call my extra unit, which is the large open hill.
All right, baby. Yeah.
So if you have that large open hill, regardless if you're first or second player, that piece of terrain should be your first grab. If the other person knows what's going on and they grabbed it and they either stuck it in their back corner or your back corner, you need to find a way to keep the middle of the board as clear of terrain as possible, because as soon as you get into terrain, you're just back to individual units of whatever you brought. and they basically lose all their battle board abilities because almost every battle board ability requires phalanx in line of battle. So the terrain just gives them a lot of problems.
So something to keep in mind, but I think a lot of the ancients armies actually prefer to fight in the open, so other Greek city-states, obviously, the Macedonians with their phalanx, Sarissas, we got the Taliotes frequently. They also have the phalanx. If you think of Carthaginians, you have a lot of cavalry. Numidia, they want to stay in the open with the cav. The Persians like to shoot. You'd think they'd want to hunker in the woods, but their combined formation, if they're using that, takes a ding if it goes into the terrain. So, just about half the factions probably are going to agree with you. Let's get that hill.
Yep.
Let's get
a lot of times
right in the middle
when
here.
My group's playing, sometimes we'll just say, do we even want terrain, or do we just meet on an open field today? And that's a pretty common occurrence.
Few, Iberians, the Romans don't necessarily need to fight.
No, the Romans are fine.
A couple other ones there, not remembering, but so something to keep in mind when you're setting up terrain. Just try to get it out of the way.
Grab that big open hill as soon as you can, and place it where you think the battle is going to be, because then that blocks the terrain all around it too.
So, all right, let's get into. I gotta blowing up the line of battle box here, so it is actually readable on screen here. But so I've got the text up here in case anybody wants to pause it maybe and read it. I don't know. Can you kind of explain? If you do want to read it, you can.
No, it's pretty simple. It's are your guys within VS of each other or not? If they are, great, you're in the line of battle. If they're not, that's not good. Get them in VS with each other. That's all you really need to think about with it. And the probably the slight complication is the 10 warrior figure or 6 Hearthguard counting as 2 units for a line of battle. So that's where my 8-pack of Hearthguard comes in. I like having them since they count as extra units and they hit just as hard as you would expect 8 Hearthguard to hit.
Yeah, so those are kind of unusual numbers in the game of Saga. We like 4, 8, and 12, but they're using 6 and 10 here.
10 and 6, yep. The line of battle is a really crucial thing to understand and remember, just because, again, almost every ability on this board interacts with it in some way, and you don't want your guys. There's no reason for them to ever be out of formation, out of the line of battle. It's almost always a bad decision, or it's you made a mistake and you moved some guys away, and now they're just not in the line of battle anymore, and so you have to spend an extra die to get them back in the line. Yeah, and that's that's where that warlord can sometimes come in handy as well. If he's in the back and you realize, oh, I screwed up and I've got a guy or a unit out of the line of battle, the warlord can get him back. So we obey.
Yeah. So key points: you have to be a phalanx, so the warlord is not part of the line of battle. If a warrior unit gets depleted too much, it can be kicked out of the line of battle. So when you deploy, essentially, unless your deployment zone is broken up by terrain, which is probably a good strategy if you are playing against the Greek city-states, put something in the middle.
Oh yeah, stick a wood or a marsh or something like that right in the middle of my deployment zone. I'm pretty sad.
But if you think about it, you just kind of deploy your army across the deployment zone right on the starting line, ready to go. It's possible your whole warband will be in just one giant line of battle.
Oh, they absolutely should be, unless you've got a really pressing strategic reason that you need to split your warband at the start of the game. I almost always deploy them just as, essentially one big rectangle.
Okay. Yeah, so if you got the big hill in the middle, and it's just going to be a big fight in the middle, just doing the one line, the big mob of troops is the way to go. I think we can maybe towards the end circle back around to objective scenarios. Sometimes that'll require you to spread your warband out, so you might have 2 lines of battle kind of doing their own thing.
That can happen, but then you find yourself going, man, I only have 2 units in my line of battle. My abilities aren't as good as they used to be.
It's tough, yeah, because your opponent can pick on one of those and
Mm-hmm.
try to knock. If you can get it down to 1 unit, it's isolated, but
Right.
half the abilities stop working or are weaker. So it raises its own problem. So once we kind of go through all the abilities and kind of paint the picture of how it works, maybe talk a little bit more about that or ways
Sure.
to circumvent that. But the line of battle is another kind of special rule here that no other warband has, but basically I think it makes sense. You picture
Oh yeah.
those battles, they're just kind of lining up, getting ready. Getting ready to
They
fight.
spent a lot of time just pushing each other back and forth with their shields.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
So let's get to form a line, which is the bread and butter, or however you want to picture that. But that is the ability that uses line of battle pretty much time here. But okay. So form line, this replaces activation pool, and there is an activation pool like ability we'll get to on the board, so you're not losing out there necessarily. You can use any die you want here, activate all or some units in a line of battle to move S. Up to one of these activations can be a charge instead of a movement. So I think you're looking at that. If you're thinking if you just did the entire battle line as a line of battle, yes, you can move your entire warband for a single die here. Up to
this is a very
stipulation.
This is a very efficient, a dice efficient warband in those terms, basically because of this ability.
Yeah, and so there's another ability that we'll get to that kind of gives you a movement boost to this, but because of this ability and the efficiency mechanic to it, the Greek city-states board, even though it's a foot warband, even though this ability says you're moving short, but because you're moving everything typically, and you have that other one that gives you a boost, this is actually one of the fastest foot warbands in the game of Saga. I ironically, it's something
these guys
you don't picture.
If you're playing the Spartans here, or you're facing the Spartan player, they can be in the opponent's face much quicker than your opponent realizes sometimes, and that can be a really cool way to catch someone off guard. Or if you're playing against them, don't ever think, oh, they're pretty far away, I'm safe. They are ready to run.
Yeah, so the kind of the intensity ratchets up pretty quick here. So other warbands will have abilities or stuff that will make their troops faster, especially on foot. But usually it's just like 1 unit. So this is just the way that everything is moving up. Is what is making the whole warband a speedy warband. So, couple things to consider. So don't forget about just the regular activations.
Sure. Yep.
And those, your troops, they move their normal medium or whatever, right?
That's right.
So, I think typically you are using form line almost. That's the preference because you're activating everything in the line of battle. What are some situations where you would just activate a Hearthguard unit or activate a warrior unit just to get people thinking?
Yeah, so typically I find myself using the regular Saga activations up there in a situation where maybe on the previous turn, there was a hole made in my line, and now I've got 1 unit that's stranded, so I may need to get them back into the line. That's a pretty common thing. Maybe a positioning issue. Maybe for whatever reason, I couldn't quite get everybody where they needed to be just with that S movement in the form line, and I didn't have a marathon for whatever reason. So I'm like, oh, these guys over here, they really need to be just M in this direction for whatever reason. Or it could be you've done some fighting, and you're like, oh man, I got that unit down to one guy left, and I just need to kill him. But I don't want to do a form line because I'm going to fatigue my entire line if I move them all.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. So because maybe I've done it already, right? I've done it once, and then I go, all right, I'm ready to do it again. But if I do it again, I'm going to fatigue the whole line. So I'm going to instead just fatigue the one unit that I need to kill the one guy that's still standing there.
Now, at this point, let's get into your diagram here. So I'm looking at the first one.
Sure. Yeah, so the first one is kind of what I was referencing earlier when I talk about my
the battle
my composition. Yeah, so you can see I've got basically a column of the 8 there, and then I've got the 2 4s, and then the 1 4 on the back. And so the reason for that is because when I activate these guys with form line, they all need to be with that VS of each other. And so I'm gonna move them almost a little bit like Tetris blocks, and so you can see my composition here is what we talked about earlier, the 8-pack and then the 3 4 packs, and then my fifth my sixth point is maybe it's those archers, and they're not pictured in this diagram, but they would be present someplace, or they may be just an extra 4-pack of Hearthguard someplace, or maybe they're an 8-pack of warriors that are in the very back. But I found that I really like this column formation because it allows me to do that sort of Tetris-like movement without stranding any of my guys.
Okay. So we're looking at the second one here. So you kind of see the arrows. This unit
so now
moves,
you can see how they've started to move towards the enemy. And the unit that is going to make contact in the one charge that I get from my form line activation is going to be the 8-pack, of course. That's the hammer. So the other guys are moving in such a way that they are getting close to the enemy without actually making contact, so that when the 8-pack charges in, the 8-pack is still within VS of the rest of the line of battle.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So when you're doing these activations, they have to be in the line of battle at the start with.
That's right.
You're doing the movements and stuff. It's possible a unit leaves the line of battle, just the way that you sometimes you'll want to do that or have to do that. But the key thing is when you engage in melee is you still want to be in the line of battle when the fight starts. And
that can be in fact I was playing that incorrectly when I first started playing the Spartans, just because myself and my group were kind of like, well, how does this really work? We were a little confused on it. But eventually we kind of settled on, no, this has to be like this. So you have to get one unit that's going to be right up in the enemy's front, but they're not making contact. So when your unit that does make contact makes contact, they're still within VS of another unit in the line of battle. The other advantageous thing about doing that is it keeps your unit that's hitting them a little bit bunched up, because typically in Saga, you are supposed to move all of your guys into contact with as many enemy models as you can.
Half of the frontage
so you're blocking
of the enemy.
you're blocking yourself from being able to get into contact with part of the enemy, and that's an advantageous thing because it keeps your guys bunched up. And then in the sad case that they do have to retreat, they're basically able to retreat sort of back to where they were. And then they're still within
so
VS
that's a key,
of the rest of the line of battle.
Key point there. When you charge, you kind of, to some extent, are kind of not in control. You got to touch when you can.
Yes.
So you got to keep, that in mind. And then also, like you say, the withdrawal. So if you bounce off, you still want to make sure you're within very short. And Saga, very short is very... It is very short. Like it's not
very short in Saga.
Stuff
it is a small measurement.
Playing the Greeks, you probably learn that distance quite quickly. But you don't use that stick very often in a normal game of Saga, and sometimes in some Age of Magic you do. And I'm always surprised that stuff that looks how close it is doesn't actually qualify as being with a very short, because it's very short is 2 inches. It's like 2 1/4 or 2 1/2. Something. So The eye can be deceiving there. Just make sure you're putting in the extra effort to make sure your units stay
and one
bunched
thing
up.
that I've gotten into the habit of doing when I play Spartans is just after I do anything, checking that, because I don't ever want to be in the position where I thought I moved them in the right place, and then it's my opponent's turn, and we measure it, and I'm like, oh, that's slightly out. Okay, those guys are hosed. So
Yeah, so trying to get closer than that, probably a good idea. Maybe think of 1-inch intervals between your units, and you won't go wrong. But
and
yeah,
it can make figuring out who is in what unit to be a little bit difficult too. So a lot of
sure.
times, what I do with that is I'm like, well, okay, so these models, the spear is pointing forward. Okay, so they're all in one unit, and then these guys, they've all got their spear upright. So maybe
Okay.
their cloak is sculpted a certain way, so those
We
guys are
can
all in one
kind of
unit.
see
Or
that here. Yeah.
yeah, or maybe I'll do something with their facing. Like, all right, so the guys who are facing forward in one unit, these guys are facing sideways, and for whatever reason, these guys are facing backwards. But it just helps me remember who is in what unit as
That's a
I
great,
pull models off.
great point. And
Yeah.
I have to say, it looks like you're using the War Gods of Egyptus Spartans
They
here.
are, yes,
The original
Crocodile.
Spartans.
Yeah,
Crocodile Games. Yeah.
for sure. Yep.
That's awesome. Um, yeah, very, very cool. Wearing their battle diapers, as we
That's right.
as we say.
Gird your loins, Rodge.
Yeah, that's right. They're ready to fight. So that's cool. Okay.
So I hope those diagrams are somewhat helpful to your audience as you try and figure out how do I move these guys around, and how do I get them in a charge where they're able to actually benefit from all their abilities.
Yeah. So a lot of great stuff here. I think it helps us visualize it, and like you say, it can be form line, line of battle, but it could be form blob. Blob of battle, the block here, as long as
form Excel spreadsheet of guys.
Yes, as
absolutely.
long as they're next to each other, it can be whatever configuration.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a horizontal line, even though that's what you sort of think of when you think of one of these things. I find that sort of vertical column is a pretty advantageous formation.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get looking at these battle board abilities then. So first up, we'll start at upper left, work our way down. We have Sons of Homer, orders a reaction using column, which is that common. I think the columns are common. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So we can see here the keywords already and the things we've been referencing.
Yep. There's our phalanx in line of battle. So this is our warlord doesn't benefit from this. But all of the Spartan Hearthguards do, and the warrior. If you took warriors, they would benefit from this also.
Yeah, and I think too there is a blurb in there about mercenaries. So some of the mercs do count as phalanxes.
Yeah, we'll talk about my favorite merc, my favorite phalanx merc, probably at the end. But the and because most of these abilities actually don't target a unit in particular, because that's the restriction, right? Of can't target mercenaries with your battle board abilities unless they're loyal merc. Most of these battle abilities don't target a particular unit, and so it just says, do they have phalanx or not? Well, if your mercenaries have phalanx, then you're all set.
Yeah. So this is one that affects them. The mercs can be phalanxes. You look at the verbiage, it says they can be included in a line of battle. We didn't mention it specifically, but form line is a basic Saga ability, so you can move around the mercenary units. As part of
no, actually, this is kind of oddly enough, given sort of what we know about the Spartans, this is a very mercenary-friendly army. So if you're like, man, I've got all these cool mercenary units, and I've always wanted to have an excuse to try them out, this is a pretty good warband to do that with. Being able to swap in those different mercs and see how you like them. This is a good one for that.
So just kind of being an example of some of the things we've discussed here. But the ability itself, you pop this during the opponent's turn. And when you have a phalanx unit in a line of battle and they close ranks, so all three of those have to be true. You take a -1 penalty on your attack dice, but increase your armor by 1. So this one, kind of a trade-off ability here. If you don't close ranks, you do not take the penalty.
That's right.
So sometimes, just been playing and somebody's like, well, I did pop this, but for this fight, I don't want that.
For whatever reason, I'm
penalty,
not doing it on this
so
one.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
close ranks. And I don't get the armor bonus. There's another ability kind of like this one that gives you defense dice. It's actually the last ability we'll discuss. So you kind of have two ways to accomplish this. What do you think of this Sons of Homer ability?
Oh yeah, this is a pretty often used one for me, especially because it's just the one common. So a lot of times, if I've laid out my whole battle board, I'm like, all right, I got my plan, and I've got an extra common. Okay, Sons of Homer, not bad. In objective play, I find that this one's pretty strong because most of the time I want to be closing ranks because I don't want to be losing guys. I also don't want to be losing guys because I've taken so many Hearthguard. So every time I lose a guy, it's painful. So that that extra +1 armor, bumping them up to a 6, that's always cool. And especially you have, your opponents a lot of times have ways to get your armor down. So even though you think to yourself, well, I've bought a whole warband of 5 armor Spartans. Oh, now something's going on, and now they're down to 4, or maybe they're down to 3. So bumping them up back 1 is always good.
Yeah, I think in the context of the Spartan warband, where most likely you will be fighting with Hearthguards, I think this is a good ability, and you should probably load it up most turns if you can. So a couple things for that. The Hearthguards going from armor 5 to 6, we know. Going from 4 to 5 with the Warriors is good, but 5 to 6, so juicy, so tasty.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's real common to pop this ability, and then your opponent just doesn't even score any hits, and they're like, well, now I've wasted my dice.
Pretty demoralizing, honestly.
It is, and Saga has this opportunity cost, right? Where it's like, if I'm attacking on my turn, I'm spending dice to do that, and whatever casualties I cause are a result of me spending those dice. But on my opponent's turn, if I'm causing casualties, they actually spent the dice, and so I just really don't want to lose guys, and this is a great way to make sure I don't lose guys.
Yeah. I will say that the kind of penalty there can be pretty gnarly. And so this is why I think for the other Greek city-states, I wouldn't automatically recommend this the way that I do with the Spartans. Because when you close ranks, you half your attacks, and now you're getting a -1 penalty to the attack dice. Your opponent can do some shenanigans where all your remaining attacks do auto miss if they want to do that. But when you pop this, and you're closing right your melees, you're not really doing much as far as damage back to the enemy.
That's right. If you've already decided to close ranks, you've already decided, I don't really care how many casualties I get out of this fight.
But with the Spartans, you're still doing something, because as long as you can win the melee, it didn't matter the casualties you did or didn't inflict. You're going to put that extra fatigue on the opponent. Hopefully this means they come in, they completely do nothing. You did or one hit or whatever and won the melee. They bounce off and they take that additional fatigue. So just with the Spartans in particular, the Hearthguard, the way that works out, this is pretty good. Yeah, you don't need to worry about the casualties on the opponent's turn. You're just waiting, let those fatigues accumulate, and then drop the hammer on your turn.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like charging 8 Hearthguards into an exhausted unit. I mean, you're gonna smash them.
It's good. It's good picking those dice out.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So here we get to the basically levy ability. The only units with ranged weapons are levies. Without courage, that's not a very inspiring name for a Saga ability here, but probably
it's cool though. Like I said, this is the thing where if you were running that kind of goofy Jav Cav unit, this is the ability for them.
Yeah, activate a unit for a move that generates no fatigue, and this movement can be made through a friendly unit. So both of these are great. You're just spending a common or an uncommon die. So typically levies require an uncommon die to activate anyway. So getting quite a lot here. So the Spartan levies are javelins, one way or the other. and you could shoot basically and just get out of there, just make a run for it.
Yep.
I mean, you could be taking a big levy unit if you wanted.
Sure.
So maybe.
If you felt like, a good case for the big levy unit is I'm facing a very shooty warband. Maybe it's the Carthaginians and they are just totally loaded with bows and elephants and stuff. So I go, okay, well I'm gonna bring my 12 bodies to protect my Hearthguard as we move up the field.
Sure, yeah, literally screening and.
And so then this gives them a ton of movement flexibility because it's like, well, it doesn't my positioning doesn't matter. They move through the other guys, and that's great.
Yeah, so pretty cool ability. I don't think anybody is going to complain if this ability is on their battle board, but
no, it's cool. It's just not very tuned for the Spartans specifically, but I think for the other Greek city sub factions, this is something that they're going to want to probably maybe even build an army around this ability. I could see.
You could get a little secret sauce often in Saga, squeezing in as many levies as you can. So activating them is a problem. This will give you a way to do it, but probably not overly useful for the Spartans in particular. But let's talk about Marathon here. So if you're getting shot up, there is a defensive ability we'll get to, but oftentimes just best defense is good offense here, and Marathon will do it. So this is uncommon or rare. When form line is next trigger, the moves and charges it makes generate no fatigue and are made with a distance of short plus very short. So
that's right.
That is
good stuff.
Could have said medium, but short plus very short.
Could have.
So you, I guess you get that extra stick, so you can move in a L formation.
That's right. This sort of allows you a bit of a pivot there if you need it for some reason.
If you use a rare, you use an S plus S. So
this is often where my rare goes.
This is money, yeah. So it's a whole army. So this is how the warband can be so fast. So for 1 die, you activate the form line. Hopefully your whole army's in the blob. You move up, and then you pop Marathon, and then that second die, you still need a die on form line. You pop that. You got the rare, your whole army then moves 12 inches, basically, like half.
Yeah.
If you don't have the rare, they move 10 inches. So it's still pretty good. Right. Probably getting the job done.
When they get there, they have no fatigue.
Yeah. So the only issue really is getting the warlord, keeping him up. I think
the warlord's back there trying to jog along with everybody, and he's not quite making it. He's like, guys, wait for me. Which is maybe another reason why that why I kind of like that column formation, because you can put the warlord at the back of that column.
Yeah, and so you can just do one movement. We'll keep him up. One medium move will be enough to be within bodyguard's range of the back line of the blob. So, this great ability here. The bane of all Greek city-state opponents, I think. But
no doubt.
So I think whether you got the uncommon or rare, you're probably popping this one every turn, I would imagine, right?
Oh yeah, and especially with the way that I like to play Spartans, a lot of times on my turn, I don't want to be attacking. I want you to be attacking me on your turn. So I'm using Marathon and Form Line to get all my movement exactly where I want my guys to be. Okay, I've got my column spread out in such a way that I'm actually covering 2 objectives, let's say. I use Marathon and Form Line to get them exactly where I want them to be, and then they are set up for your turn when I want you to charge me and just bounce off.
Yeah, so just aggressively getting in the way.
Absolutely.
Blocking the opponent.
Now these guys are, these guys are fantastic for objective play. They can often use the line of battle to grab multiple objectives. And then they're just going to sit there until you kill them. That's the bottom line.
A lot of good stuff there. So very cool. Yeah, basically between Marathon, Form Line, any move the whole army 12 inches, but you can also deliver like basically any one of your units can charge 12 inches fatigue.
No,
if you get the rare or
one of those
10 inches.
Yeah, where you're like, I have to send in one sort of missile of a unit, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to, for whatever reason, benefit from the line of battle because of how things are configured, but I need this one unit to be in this one particular place. You can use this as a way to sort of launch that one unit, because the whole line of battle doesn't necessarily have to go, because it says, activate all or some. So you could be like, all right, I'm activating this one unit, and now they have kind of flown down the battlefield.
Yeah, so you can launch stuff on its own with this, but obviously, you're trying to keep them all together generally. So
you are, because if you do
at the
that,
back of your mind,
if you do that launch, then you've lost almost all your board abilities. So you're just hoping, maybe it's that 8-pack of Hearthguard, and you're hoping the dice are just going to go in your favor. So it can be a risky move. That's usually like if I don't do this, I'm going to lose the game kind of move. But it's there, and it's a threat. It's something that, like, once your opponent has seen it, they will remember it, and they will think about it every time they're playing your army, regardless of whether you have any actual plan.
Definitely. Yeah, great ability here. Let's get into the shooting defense. Aspis.
Yeah.
Coile,
I believe. Yeah.
Got a little
Coile.
thing there.
Coile. Yeah.
Common or uncommon die orders a reaction. So all your phalanx units count as being in light cover until the end of the turn. So this doesn't negate the phalanx rule. That's uneven terrain, buildings, or dangerous terrain. So this is just light cover. And basic.
This is how you get light cover for your phalanx.
Yeah, this is how you do it. So you'll be going to be blocking all the shots on 3s instead of 4s, and I think this is it for shooting defense besides combat bonus.
This is it. If you see any bows or javelins or anything like that on the other side, you want this ability loaded up. They're going to be shooting your guys every chance they get.
Yeah, so definitely, very very good ability, very efficient. Protecting essentially the whole army. Again, the warlord not being
the warlord
there.
Doesn't benefit, and that's another good reason for maybe keeping the warlord back, keeping him in the back to deal with fatigue, or having him babysit the unit of archers that I bring, or whatever it is. He doesn't benefit from this.
So be careful there. Your opponent is going to be sick and tired of all these abilities affecting all the phalanx units. I might go for something a little easier here. Makes a difference, but against a determined shooting effort, I don't know. They still get through. This ability, I think, should be restated to once you pop this, you roll nothing but 1s and 2s for all your shooting saves. That's what it seems like time. To me. It's either a 1 or 2, 5 or 6. There's never a 3 or 4 in between. My experience here. So can make a difference, but sometimes can be a little frustrating. We just keep rolling 1s and 2s. But obviously, if you're playing against a shooting faction, I would say if they can shoot you more than once, or even if they shoot you once, it's still not a bad idea. You got the
most of the time, it at least saves you a hit or two, in my experience. And over the course of a 6-round game, or even a 5-round game, that's going to be helpful. And it's also there again. There's a lot of psychological things about this board. Yes. It's also there just to make your opponent think, do I really want to shoot, or do I want to do something else? A lot of the abilities on this board, sometimes they just sit there and they don't do anything, and you feel like maybe they're not having an effect, but your opponent, in his mind, is dealing with a lot of factors. Maybe a little bit like the Yams Vikings, where the Yams gives a mental load to their opponent in saying, you have to know my whole battle board, and you have to choose what you want to give me something or not. On the Greeks, it's like, you need to know my battle board so that you know which of these abilities are in effect, and that's gonna affect your mental load more than it's gonna affect mine.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, especially some of the war bands are kind of combined arms. They can switch between shooting and melee. So, popping this up, might encourage them not to shoot you at all. So you're taking zero
And
casualties.
you want them charging you, Rodge. You always want them trying to get into melee with you.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because your whole board is just set
Come
up to
on.
bounce them and give them fatigue.
All right. Let's go down to Impassable Wall here.
This is the winner, man. This is the one that I just love. It's such a great multifaceted ability.
Okay. So 2 die ability. So some people don't like those abilities, but it's 2 uncommon, so kind of a pricey ability, but for each of up to 4 units.
And sometimes you just don't get it too.
Yeah. In your line of battle, especially rolling 2, 3, or 4 dice. Game's a little harder to predict, but up to 4 for each of up to 4 units in your line of battle, you can either inflict an additional automatic hit on the enemy unit, you're going offense, or cancel a casualty suffered. So this is where kind of the count of your line of battle will factor in. I think for a lot of these actually doesn't seem to matter that much, but for this one it does. So you need 2 small Hearthguard units and a big one will count as a 4. If you have more than that, if your whole army's in there, you'll cap out at that 4, which is great. But so you can use this if you're closing ranks. Sons of Homer, you're not hitting anything. Well, you can still do 4 auto hits.
Perfect.
Or double down. You're hitting me on 6s, and the first 4 casualties you inflict
4 casualties. Yeah, it's really punishing either way. What I especially like about the cancel casualty part of it, if you're doing a hit, you're basically getting an extra roll, right? It's like you've rolled an auto. You've rolled an auto hit. That's great.
This is right here. They still roll the defense dice. So
if you're canceling a casualty, you're getting through 2 hits, right? Or two rolls rather, because you're canceling out a roll that they've done, and you're also succeeding on your own defense roll by canceling a casualty. So it's effectively negating 2 rolls. Just saying you don't have to do those rolls. Yeah, here's the casualties.
Opponent, like mathematically, you think about it, then they have to do 8 hits, successful hits, to get 4 casualties through, because you're if you close ranks, you're saving half of them. And so those will be canceled. So your opponent needs 9 unsaved hits mathematically to stop it. And you're probably hitting on 6s to start with. So you can quite see how, the odds are kind of growing on the Spartan side here about how they will.
Yeah, if you're playing into the Spartans, if this is your opponent and you see this up, just know you're going to have to do, if you want to do anything this turn, you got to do 2 charges because you're one charge. Yeah. And again, it's that psychological thing. You go, all right, I'm going to do this charge, and we're going back and forth with our Saga abilities, and he didn't even pop Impassable Wall, and we're doing it, and I bounced, and I still need to do another charge, and Impassable Wall's still there.
There's can be a little brinksmanship to it. You might just rely purely on Sons of Homer, or even if you didn't get that, where you wait. If the opponent pops the Saga ability, you'll pop this. If they don't, their fight is you're going to be uphill regardless, and so they pass, and then you pass, and then you still got this in your back pocket, like you said.
No, this is my the one above it, Aspis Coile. That's going on probably almost every turn. Hopefully with a common die. If I've got 2 uncommon, this thing's getting queued up, because this is just this is such a mind game for the opponent, and it's such a winner for me as the Spartan player. So it's expensive. Yeah, I might not get the dice when I need them, but I don't have the levy, so I don't need the uncommons to activate the levy. So
okay, there you go. Yeah, I guess we'll keep an eye out.
It's cool. It's cool.
Go through. But good point there. When will you switch to the auto hits instead of the casualties? What's the situation?
So when I will switch to auto hits, maybe against something else with a high armor. Maybe they're bringing Hearthguard into me, and then I go, okay, well, I don't want to worry about rolling 5s. I really want the auto hits. Or if I'm in a situation where I'm just like, I don't think they're going to do any casualties, or maybe they're going to do 1 casualty, then I do the auto hits. But if I think No, there's a real chance that I could suffer 3 casualties or all 4 casualties. I'm bouncing up with the casualties.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yep. There's certain
I think that's
situations.
the I think that's the math. Is it's like, how many casualties do I think I'm going to take? And then if I don't think I'm going to take many casualties, I do the auto hits. If I think I'm going to take 3 casualties, I'm doing that.
Yeah. So I think if you're a newer player, just think about canceling the casualties is the juicier play because it works automatically. You're doing the
Right.
auto hits, sure, but your opponent still gets defense dice save.
Yep.
So it may or may not work the way that just canceling casualties is pretty rare in Saga and it's pretty sweet.
Yes.
Especially
it's
when
really
you're
strong.
canceling Hearthguard casualties as well.
Yes.
So
And also worth noting, you cannot split these. So you can't go, well, I want to do 2 auto hits and 2 auto cancel casualties.
sure,
You can't
very,
do that.
very good point. Yeah. You have to
Yeah.
decide which one. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's pop up to file leaders. This one I seem to see
This is
a
a
lot.
good case for the rare. Yeah, this is if you're not doing marathon, maybe this is where your rare goes.
Okay. Uncommon or rare, gain 2 attack or defense dice, or 4 if you use a rare. And if you win a melee, remove a fatigue from each of the other units here in its line of battle. So you have to be a phalanx, but you can be the defender, you can be the attacker here.
Sure.
The defense dice are always good, even if the second part doesn't come into play. I guess. How do you try to use this ability? Are you usually the attacker or the defender, or
I think this one pops up. A lot of times, this is actually my
50-50?
fatigue management one. This is where,
Okay.
for whatever reason, I had to do last turn. I had to do. I had to get a fatigue on everybody. I had to do form line twice, and I didn't have marathon. Something like that. Maybe I rolled a bunch of commons. That could be a
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
So maybe file leaders is what's going to help me out here. And it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure I can win this fight. Here's my file leaders. We lose the fatigue from everybody else. And this is a good case for sort of cycling your units around a little bit when you do your form line. Maybe you've got some guys that have some fatigue. You pull them back a little bit. You bring up a fresh
Sure.
unit. And that's, I mean, realistically, that's how these guys fought. You get tired, you get wounded, you go to the back, and somebody else takes your place. So this ability really is pretty historically grounded, and so I would say I use it more for the fatigue management. Although it's really great to have either the 4 attack or defense dice. On the maybe this is one where I say, okay, well, I've done Sons of Homer. So you're hitting me on 6s. I've done Impassable Wall. I'm canceling 4 casualties. Oh, and I've got file leaders. Well, here's 4 extra attack dice. Maybe I want to score some hits on you now.
We're going in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. You're not locked in necessarily to configuration. Right. Obviously, closing ranks, if you really want to lean into sitting there taking it,
sure.
Those defense dice go a little bit longer when you're closing ranks, but being able to switch it up, get some attack dice is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think
it's nice that kind of like Impassable Wall, this is a mixed ability. This allows you to queue it up. It works on your turn, it works on the opponent's turn, and it lets you pick, strategically when you're setting up your board, but then tactically in the situation, you decide, is this an offensive or a defensive ability? That's a strong ability when an ability lets you do that.
So I do want to point out, the unit fighting the melee does not get to remove a fatigue. Right. So sometimes Saga abilities will be worded in such a way that you include the unit itself in calculations.
Yeah, famously, what that one ability from the Viking board where it's like everybody loses the fatigue and it's literally everybody.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Like
nothing like that in the game of Saga, except for that one ability. But so if you win the melee, remove fatigue, not from the unit itself, but from each of the other unit in that unit's line of battle. So that could be potentially 3 or 4 units fatigues. So end game obviously is getting pretty useful. But yeah, great ability. I think even just get some attack or defense dice, and that the rest of your warband is perfectly fine. I still think it's generally worth it.
Yeah, not a strong case, I think, for the uncommon because you've got, you definitely want to be doing impassable wall. Maybe you need it for Aspis. So
Oh,
this
okay.
is this one is maybe more where I'm leaning towards the rare, or not doing it. I don't know that I love it as an uncommon, but as a
Okay.
rare, it's probably going.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good point. Passable wall is where those uncommons are going first. So
I think so, for me
keep
at
an eye
least.
out. Right. We are one.
This is cool. And I say that for a lot of the abilities on this board. The thing about the Greek city states and the Spartans specifically is, if you've been like, man, Saga is a fun game, but I feel like I don't like picking among all my abilities. I want to be able to use all the abilities on my board in one turn. Greek cities might let you do that because they're
Sure.
so efficient on their actual activations that you may have 7 dice to put on the advanced saga abilities on your battle board. So once again, this is a cool one that we're about to talk about.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good. Once we get to the end, once we got the full picture, though, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you've got the potential efficiency, but then you have the potential of you're just leaving all your dice on your board for orders or
that,
reactions, and
that
not
can
doing
happen.
anything. So there's a kind of a balancing act there. I think once we got the full picture, we can kind of go into
Yeah,
that. Because I don't think there is a right answer. Sometimes you go all in,
sure.
pop all the abilities. Sometimes you'll load up your defense, but we can kind of
Yep.
suss that out. But
Yeah.
we are one. This is a common die, so you should always be able to use it. Cancel up to half the casualties suffered by inflicting a casualty on a different unit in your unit's line of battle. Each casualty cancel. The other
Right.
units can only take a single casualty this way. So
Right.
maybe cancel isn't the right word. Transfer, if you want to think
Yeah,
about it that way, is more.
for
So
sure.
for every casualty, you're basically shifting the casualties to other units, and no unit can take more than one. So I think
Lots of
this is
limitations on this one. You, other than the fact it can be on either turn, this is just a standard melee ability. You don't have to be attacked
mhm.
to get it off. But yeah, you've got, it's only up to half. It has to be, you have to spread it out among multiple units. Maybe this is a good argument for doing more warrior units than I do. Maybe you say, hey,
Well,
I only want like 3 packs of 4 Hearthguards, and then maybe I want 3 packs of 8 warriors. You're going to be throwing We Are One out every chance you get, because you'll be able to cancel and then transfer those back to the warriors, and it doesn't bother you.
yeah. So the big thing there is they're engaging your Hearthguard. They
Right.
take a casualty. Oops, I removed a warrior instead.
Yep.
And so,
And it's not even from the unit, which means that casualty, even though the casualty happened, doesn't count towards the who actually won the
yes,
engagement
that's
question.
key there. So
Yeah.
bodyguards, resilience, and this ability, like here,
Right.
they do not count towards the casualties inflicted melee. So you're increasing your chance of winning. So even shifting Hearthguard to Hearthguard,
Sure.
because you're going to win the melee by shifting it, can
Mhm.
make the difference there. So, even just one for one. So the key is, which units you want to keep up to strength. You'd run the multiple warrior units because you want to shift like 2 casualties instead of
Right.
1. So maybe 2 points of warriors. You could do
Mhm.
4 Hearthguard or something like that. I think there's even value just one warrior unit to shift 1, and then
I agree.
just kind of seeing how the dice goes and just making sure you win the melee just by shifting. Or you've got like a sacrificial Hearthguard unit that seems to take all the hits, and it goes the 4, then the 3, then the 2, and then there's like one guy hanging back there just generating the saga dice. He's part of the line of battle. He's still contributing, but
Right.
you're keeping the front line fresh.
Keeping them
in
fresh
that.
and ready to fight. And I find a lot of times, if I don't get my 2 uncommons from Passable Wall, I'm doing We Are One. Because
Okay.
again, I'm canceling those casualties. And like you said earlier, canceling casualties contributes to my win, which contributes to the extra fatigue you're going to be taking because I'm Spartan.
Yeah. So on paper, might not seem like it can do much, but you might prefer just get attack dice or the auto hits or the cancel casualties. So sometimes I think finding the
I would
dice for
say,
this is tough.
it's cool, but maybe it's a little bit mid tier compared to some of the other cool abilities on this board.
Yep.
I like it a lot though. It's cool.
Okay. We go another 2-die ability, but it just takes commons, so not conflicting with a passable wall. Stoic, and this one actually is just for the defender. Gain 1 attack and 1 defense die for each of unit in your unit's line of battle, up to a maximum of 4 each type. So if you have 4 units in your line of battle, you can get 4 attack and 4 defense dice. And defender only though. So yeah, are you finding you have the 2 commons here for this one? I mean, you should always, if you want to do it, you should be able to, right?
You should, commons. But a lot of times I'm going, all right, I like Stoic, it's cool, but I want Sons of Homer, I want Aspis.
Yeah, so you have 3 other reaction.
And maybe I need a form line, so at this point, maybe I'm running out of commons. I sometimes what ends up going with this ability is maybe first turn when I don't need a bunch of dice, or maybe on another turn where I get an Oracle's boost, which we'll talk about in a second, and I've just got some extra dice. This is a good place to toss these dice and then just let them sit there for the whole game. And again, it's that psychological thing. Your opponent's looking at your board and you're like, oh gosh, he's got Impassable Wall. He's got Stoic. He's got Sons of Homer. I'm not going to win a fight this turn, So the dice are sitting there. They're not doing anything, but they are forcing your opponent to make some unfortunate decisions. So, yeah, I mean, essentially 8 dice for 2 commons. That's not bad in Saga math, I don't think. So this may be something where if I've got the 2 commons and I don't have a plan for them, this is not a bad place to put them. It definitely makes your opponent think.
Yeah. It's decent ability. I think you're almost always going to have, you're going to be maxing it out, especially in turn 2 and 3. Some ways it could be a poor man's passable wall if you don't get the 2 uncommons. Yeah, this is can be just as good. There's going to be situations where it's actually better because you always get attack and you always get some defense dice. So against certain opponents, that actually will work out better. Could imagine that. But yeah, defender only, I think is the big thing there. And how many dice are you parking on your board for the opponent's turn? So there's already 3 other candidates. So this would be dice 4 and 5. So that leaves you 3 dice to do stuff on your turn. But the passable walls up, that's 2 more. You got 1 dice to do stuff. So how defensive are you being?
Right. And it's one of those situations where, like you were saying, where maybe we've already used 5 dice and we're like, all right, this is 7 dice. I'm doing 1 form line on my activation and my warlords, catching up with them, and that's my turn. And now I've got 7 defensive dice ready for your turn. What do you want to try and do?
Yeah, and sometimes that will be the right thing, the correct thing to do. Sometimes there's a turn you should be aggressive. So just kind of suss on that. But let's move on to oracles. You just mentioned it. This is the rare. This kind of replaces activation pool in a way, but you can only use it once. You roll a die and have the result. Take that many available Saga dice, roll them, and add them to your inactive Saga dice. Add a 1 to the result. Your die. If you find a battle has a total size of 4 or more, add a +2 if they have a 6 or more. So with the full line of battle, I guess you can get to a D6. A 6 plus a 2 is 8. Have that is a 4. And the worst result is always going to be at least one die, right? So somewhere between 1 and 4 dice. So this is kind of unusual. Saga, I mean, this is like a GW, Games Workshop type rule here, honestly. There's not really much like this in the game of Saga.
So and this is very, this is very thematic, right? Because this was, both in the historical documentary and in what actually happened. They consult the oracles, and the oracle said, "I'm sorry, this is not a good time for you to go to war." So the
Yes.
king says, "All right, me and my 300 bodyguard are taking a stroll down the beach." And so even if you roll it and you get the 1, well, okay, that's fine. You still get your die back. But hey, you got the 4. You just maybe this is the end game. Maybe you're down to 2 units. Well, they're still in a line of battle, and you still found a way to pull a bunch of dice and put them on your board and do stuff with them. So yeah, I actually when I'm talking about what's a good candidate for the rare, what I really mean is after I've used oracles and I have another rare, then I'm deciding. Then I'm deciding: am I using file leaders or am I using marathon? Because oracles is going to take your first rare every time.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fine. Like you say, sometimes the oracles give you bad news, and
Right.
sometimes you get good news. I guess one thing to point out is if you do have the big blob, you got the whole warband in the line of battle, and you get the +2. You're always going to get at least 2 dice. So
right. So it's So I mean, depending on your unit composition, it's kind of a no-brainer. The only time where I would even question it a little bit is where you're in a situation where you're like, well, I have this one rare. If I don't put it on file leaders or marathon, something bad's going to happen. Because if you're like, well, okay, I'm gonna roll the die. Oh, it's not a rare, it's a common, and I've already got too many commons. I don't need another common. So there is maybe a time where you don't use it, but this is a good one. This is just really solid, and it's but like you were saying, it's a one shot. So with your standard activation pool, you can keep doing that.
Get escalation,
This
started with 3, ended up with 8.
Right.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So this is it's either a big escalation or it's a reroll.
All right, cool. All right, last one here, inspiration, which actually has been the subject of the recent.
Yes, this is our errata. I don't know that it's the most exciting errata ever, but we got it changed from orders reaction to orders reaction.
Yeah, so you could use this to have an aggressive a turn for you as the attacker, or basically how it worked previously was as a pure orders reaction. So you really had 3 orders reactions: Sons of Homer, Aspis, Coile, and Inspiration. It's still the case here, but you have a new option. Till the end of the turn, each of your phalanxes can reroll 2 defense dice during every melee, and it takes an common to do that. So
this is probably the one I'll kind of scratch my head on a little bit.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of strong cases for uncommons to go other places on the board.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think if I've already got Impassable Wall and I'm canceling 4 casualties, and I've already got Sons of Homer, and they have to hit me on 6s, and maybe I've already got Stoic, so I'm rolling all these extra dice. I don't know that the rerolls are as exciting as like canceling 4 casualties. I don't think I would say, if I were in a position where I had 2 uncommons and I was going, well, I can do Impassable Wall, or I can do Inspiration and something else, I'm probably just going to do Impassable Wall. So yeah, this one also, the mercenary unit I'm going to talk about does the same thing. So for me, this one is probably my least used one. But and also I like things that are sort of guaranteed, right? Like just canceling 4 casualties, you don't have to worry about dice. This one, it's like, well,
an appeal to that, yeah.
And even I think getting more dice is objectively stronger than just re-rolling dice. And we have a lot of abilities that just give us more dice. So this one just being a re-roll is not as exciting to me as all the other stuff. In fact, I might even just be tempted to throw it on combat bonus and take the 1 extra die rather than the re-rolls.
Bold move. Okay, cool.
Well, so not saying it's totally useless, but it's just not my first pick.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the Saga dice and how many uncommons pop up.
Maybe you had one of those goofy rolls where your whole hand of dice is all uncommons. Yeah, you're using this one. Why not?
Yeah. So, typically, though, you can expect 2 uncommons, maybe a third. So, if it's 50-50, whether you get the third, and you're always going to use Impassable Wall, and the third's going to go to Marathon. You're right, finding the dice for it. I think in a vacuum between, you're comparing Sons of Homer and Inspiration. I would rather have Inspiration just to keep. I don't like that -1 penalty just between those two, but you're using different dice. You've got the competition for the uncommon, so it's not in a vacuum. Between those two, there's a lot of other considerations. So,
well, and I would say the strength of Inspiration versus Sons of Homer is a situational thing, especially now that it's orders reaction. Sons of Homer only on your opponent's turn, so only a defensive thing. Inspiration you could use aggressively if you need.
Yeah. Have you played any games since the FAQ?
Yeah, I think I've played a couple of games with it, and I don't remember. Again, it's just not an often used ability for me personally, so I don't know that I ever went, oh hey, it's my turn and it's Inspiration time. But it's nice that they gave us that option. The fact that I really want to see someday is giving the Warlord Phalanx. That'll make me a happy Spartan.
There's got to be something with that. I guess we'll see. It wasn't addressed with this one. They might be happy with it, but see, there could be a case made for that. At least for maybe just the Lacedaemonians Warlord. He gets it
right.
just cause. But
and you know what though, that makes me wonder, because I've never actually played with the legendary, if he has it or not.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at it. So
let's see. Yeah, my group actually is probably a little bit more legendary friendly than some other groups. We have actually done legendary tournaments occasionally. Just for
it's cool. Yeah, if you play a lot of events,
fun.
Just mixing it up, throwing them in, can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
let's see. Warriors get. Yeah. No, he even the legendary Leonidas doesn't have the Phalanx rule.
The mighty Leonidas.
Yeah, even the mighty Leonidas just doesn't get that rule. So yeah, I will say though, the cool thing about the legendary Leonidas is that he gives all your warlord or your warriors Spartan.
No.
So that changes.
Okay.
That changes your there's other rules too. And one thing that's cool about him is he's free. Normally legendaries cost a point.
Yeah.
So if you're in a legendary friendly group, try him out, because there's no reason to that changes how you build your warband for sure.
Right. What was we can touch a little bit on mercs. So what?
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, I like the Cretan archers a lot, because that's my anti elephant tech there, and I'm flipping through the book here to find it. So give me just a second. So they can take a good amount of things, and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation on these guys. All right. And is this? That's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so the ones that I like are the Thoracitai.
Okay.
So we'll talk about the Thoracitai real quick. So they're 8 warriors. So if I were going to take warriors, I'm probably going to take these guys instead of the actual just normal Spartan warriors. They got Phalanx, so all the stuff on the battle board is generally going to work with them, because most of the stuff on the battle board is not activate a unit, it's just you're doing stuff.
Yeah, so the orders reactions will work on them. The form line and marathon will benefit them. They can be removed as a casualty for that one ability if you want to pull a warrior from them instead of a hearth guard. What they can't do is they cannot trigger a melee ability themselves.
That's right.
So it's the mark distinction there. But those guys have like a bubble type boost. Is that?
Yeah, that's the
The
and they did get a little bit of an errata that talks about like what kind of units and how many dice did they give to
so
what
they
units and all that. But
benefit,
for
friendly
yeah,
units, maybe themselves within short, and it was fact, like you say. So
right.
it's not quite as juicy as
Not
originally
not as
written, but it
exciting as
lets
it
you.
was when this book first came out, but still a good unit. And like I said, does the same thing basically as inspiration. So
Okay.
if I'm taking these guys, I'm definitely not using inspiration because I'm already getting my reroll out of these guys. So yeah, they're cool. They're basically just an upgrade for your warriors.
Okay.
They were the armor bearers according to
Okay.
the lore text in here. So yeah, they're and they oh yeah, this is cool. They get a free shooting activation.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
All those ranks
So
are pretty good. Yeah.
maybe they're standing right there on your front line. They're um a line of 8 or 2 rows of 4, and they're
Yeah.
just right there on the front lines, and they're throwing some javelins. Why not?
Deal some
So yeah,
damage.
they're cool. Yeah,
Okay.
I like them a lot. But I have been leaning more towards the Cretan archers, just because I have been the one of the times that I've been absolutely wrecked as the Spartans was due to some elephants.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's
So
when I started going, what do I need to deal with elephants? And I think the Cretans fit that bill really nicely. They're really strong shooters. They're even stronger if the shot is the first thing they do. But yeah, regardless, and they're also just sort of they're a troop choice that you don't have in the
mhm.
Spartan
Yep.
warband
You
composition.
don't get
Yeah,
bows normally. So yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, the elephant is uniquely situated to
yeah.
take down Sparta in some
Yes.
ways.
Because
It's
the
doing
elephant
auto hits.
penalizes you for
Yep.
closing your ranks, which you want to do. So
And
yeah.
your Hearthguard to begin with. So those auto hits are killing
Hmm.
Hearthguards instead of warriors. You have to kill the elephant generally, or to win the melee, because he's probably going to get like one hit through. If he gets one hit through,
Sure,
it's going to win the melee.
that's right.
So the fatigue thing, you're usually not putting fatigue on the elephant for
Yeah.
free. So
Although
um,
I will say, bouncing an elephant that did no hits is a
it's
great
pretty,
feeling.
yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Because that's probably a dead elephant at that point because he's probably
Yeah,
exhausted.
yeah, most definitely. So, cool. So, paint a picture for us. I think if there's objective scenarios, going purely defensive is like a little easier if you secure all those objectives really put on your opponent.
Right.
But if we're just thinking like a pitch battle or something, the opponent has the shooting advantage,
Sure.
and so they don't necessarily want to engage you. How are you splitting your dice between attack and defense? Like we said, there's 3 reactions,
Right.
and your favorite one there in Passable Wall is 2 dice.
Right.
With your Warband generating 6 or 7, you can't count on the oracles necessarily. So, how do you like to
So if I'm in a
think about that?
situation, yeah, if I'm in a situation where the opponent is um, not going to commit, if they're like, you know what, I know what your board does, I know you're defensive. I'm not going to attack on my turn. I'm gonna shoot on my turn. If you want a melee, it has to happen on your turn. Then I'm looking at my abilities that do either defensive or offensive. So file leaders becomes
Mm-hmm.
pretty attractive. And again, that's why I like Impassable Wall so much because it doesn't care whose turn it is. And maybe I even start to think about, well, some of these dice are going into combat bonus. Like,
Sure.
I need to get the kills.
I think
I need to do the
especially
win.
too with combat bonus in particular, because sometimes you will have to go into the woods,
Yes. Oh yeah.
right, to go after the
Absolutely.
opponent. So
Yep.
like that's literally the only thing you can use to
Yeah.
impact, because once you touch, you lose phalanx, and
Right.
I think 9 out of the 10 mentioned phalanx,
Hmm.
and the other one's for levies. So
Yeah.
uh, something to keep in mind, I think.
And you know what? Maybe that's the case for bringing a point a levy is if you need to go into the woods. you know?
Sure, yeah. Not hampered one way or the other, so
Right.
uh,
And there are a lot of mercenaries that I have not tried out yet. Like I said, I think the Greek
okay.
cities,
That could be
um,
another way to
so
kind of
maybe you dive
cover a weakness.
right, you dive into this and you say, well, hey, I see that there's some guys called the Javelin Men. What'll that do for me? And I bet the Rhodian Slingers probably hit pretty hard too. So I think this is a really good board for trying out mercenaries and just seeing what fits with your play style. But yeah, in a situation where the opponent has decided, I am not going to attack you on my turn. I'm going to make you attack me on your turn. Suddenly, you're looking at a pretty different setup for your board, and the order's reactions aren't going to help you out. So you're looking just for those abilities that say melee.
Okay. Do you have fun playing the
Oh,
Spartans?
this is great. You get the whole time. You get to quote the movie the whole time,
Yeah.
which is great. Somebody shoots at you. We shall fight in the
Fight in the
shade.
shade, yeah.
You do a big hit. This is Sparta, and kick them. So
Yeah, yeah.
no, it's always a fun kind of pop culture romp. Um, and and like I said, you've got the option of a lot of different figures. And did you want to talk about the giveaway?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot here. So yeah,
Yeah,
why don't you we discussed way
sure.
beforehand and not immediately beforehand, but
Yeah.
we're going to give away some goodies. So you are the owner, the man behind Fireland Games, right?
Yeah, it's myself and my very good friend Rusty, who's been gaming with
Oh,
me for a
okay.
long time.
Cool.
He's a big historical player, and my wife does a lot of the really helpful logistics work for us.
Shipping
So
labels.
yeah. So we work together as a great team, and we have lots of the members of our club are sort of part of it in some way or another too. So yeah, we have an online shop at firelandsgames.com, and we're going to be giving away the Victrix Spartans
Perfect,
on this
dude.
video. So yeah, all you have to do to get it is do a comment, and then after the video has been live for a while, we'll do a random pick, and we'll ship those to the lucky winner.
Yeah,
So
we'll say
your
I'll just
very own Spartan
arbitrarily
warband ready to go.
say 10 days from now.
Sure.
I'll close it. I'll go through. I'll pick a random comment. I'll reply to that person, and someone will get in touch via email.
Yeah,
But very cool,
absolutely.
dude. Yeah. So hopefully this will inspire some folks. I have to say, we talked about Fireland Games a few
Yes.
times on the show here, but basically, if you are, and you've got a lot of goodies there, but if you're looking for
Yes.
like one particular sprue,
Yep.
and sometimes those Victrix bags are great, but there's like 8
Right.
sprues in there. You just need the one
Yes.
Samnite sprue
Yeah.
for your Merc purposes. You've got them all split out, and
We do.
yeah.
And we do special orders too. So if we don't have it on our site currently, you message us and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this one particular sprue. Next time we do a Victrix or whoever the manufacturer is, we'll get it in for you." And yeah, we try and break things down individually by sprue whenever we can. And that actually came out of my experience getting into Saga, when we decided to start selling. Was I found that I often wanted to do that, and stores just weren't offering that service, or if they were charging so much of an upcharge that it's
On the
like,
eBay, yeah, you can
I might as
usually
well just
find
buy a
them, but
bag. Yeah.
yeah, it's so close that
So we charge what I feel is a fair price. We basically charge whatever the split is. If it's $40 and it comes with 4 sprues, you're getting them for $10 a piece.
that's
I don't have
cool.
charge for that. So yeah, it's started for basically for my club here in Ohio. We just wanted to order things for the club. We don't have a
Hmm.
store within an hour of us that carries this stuff,
Oh, okay,
unfortunately.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
so that's where it
historical
came from.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then is it all right to plug the convention at this point?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Okay,
So,
yeah, cool.
you guys are running an event in November. So,
Yep.
give us the scoop on
November,
that.
yeah. So it's called Hold the Line. This will be our third year running it. This is going to be at Camp Perry. They have a really nice
That's in Ohio?
conference center. It's in Ohio. Yep.
Okay.
Camp Perry
Okay.
in Port Clinton, Ohio. And yeah, really nice conference center. They actually have housing right there on the base, which actually used to be like officers' quarters.
Talking about that beforehand.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, so November 14th and 15th, we will be running 2 Saga tournaments. And we haven't quite decided what ages they're going to be yet, but we always try and do interesting stuff. We throw a twist in. In years past, we've done a legendary tournament, which people seem to have some fun with and enjoy. So, if we did ancients, maybe we throw in ruses. I don't know. We always try and keep it interesting.
It's cool. Yeah, it's a problem. Yeah, quote unquote prob nowadays with Saga. So many books to choose from. How do you limit it, but keep it themey, but
one army from each book is what I've kind of ended up with at this point.
Yeah, I'm right there with this. So, awesome, dude. Well, we'll see how the final edit comes out, but this is looking to be one of the definitely top 3 longest Saga THORSDAY videos. Potentially the longest. I'm gonna have to go in and double check the database there. See, but yeah, for the 300th episode, I don't think that's inappropriate either. So, James, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, no, I hope it was helpful. I hope if you've been thinking about dipping your toes into the Greek cities, Spartan waters, this encourages you to give them a try. I think they're a lot of fun. I think that they are they present interesting challenges for your opponent, and I think that they represent the game pretty well. I think when you either play them or you play against them, regardless of whether you won or lost, you feel like like you were there in the on the beach holding the Persians off, and that's a good
right. Feeling. Yeah, I think it's definitely themey. I think it's always fun running so many Hearthguard. I think it is a fair war band in that regard. Yeah, there's some logistical hurdles of understanding and the nuance and stuff, which for a newer player maybe isn't the funnest thing. But I think if you can get a couple of games in, I think you'll pick it up, you'll understand, and you're gonna have a blast. So, all right. Yeah, thank you once again, and thank you for the prize giveaway here. Spartan said it must be a whole warband in there, I would imagine. How many figures is it?
Yeah, because you could do these guys probably as either warriors or Hearthguard, depending on sort of how you kit them out. But yeah, you're getting let's see, I think it's 6 sprues of 8 guys each. So you could definitely do a whole warband just out as one bag.
Yeah, so 5 points. The Hearthguard is 20 guys plus the Warlord 21 plus a unit of warriors is 29. So that's kind of a smaller configuration. So you get almost enough to split with a buddy. Get two Spartan warbands. Sure. Very close. Absolutely. If you want to do 6 Hearthguards.
Yeah, and Victrix makes a really nice product. I think that it's cool to see somebody in the historical market that is really putting the amount of detail into their figures that Victrix is. I'm a big fan of them. Probably my only complaint is sometimes the spears, the javelins can be a little bendy, but that's plastic.
Sometimes, yeah. For those, I feel it goes set by set. Sometimes they're a little thicker. Sometimes they change the formula, or they're a little thinner on certain sets, or something like that. So, for all the ancients and stuff, obviously the Sarissas kind of had a couple issues with, but as far as the spears and stuff, I don't know if that's based off the Greek. I have a bunch. There's so many sets here, but I do have a Greek set, and all the spears on that are perfect.
Yeah, there's a couple of Greek sets. There's
like
one
a Merc set, and then
there's one that's just kind of standard generic Greek guys. I like the ones. Well, it's like they have the shield, and then the shield has a little banner coming off the bottom.
Okay.
Those are really cool for like if you're doing Athenians or something like that, where they've got more color and variety than the Spartans might.
I don't like those. Yeah. That's another thing to paint. So
that's something else to paint. Yeah, no, I feel you there though.
Yeah, I just know if I put that on there, I have to paint it. So
that's true.
It may be cool, but I just can't do it. I can't take the hit up front. But Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
yeah, appreciate all the support for Saga THORSDAY, especially for Adepticon as well. And yeah, hopefully we haven't seen the last yet. So
Yeah,
all
no,
right.
we'll be around, and we're all very enthusiastic supporters of Saga in our club. We've found that it's just a really fun game with a great community, which is another reason
Yeah.
why I've really prioritized playing Saga. Is I've just every event I go to, it's a great group of people that I'm playing with.
Cool, cool, cool. All right. Yeah, folks, comment below. In 10 days, I will respond and choose one, maybe two or three. So you have to keep an eye on your, I don't fully understand YouTube messaging system, but I believe you will get a notification or email or something like that if you set it up. So keep an eye out. So this comment could be about the video, about the Spartans in general. It can also just be a comment about 300 episodes of Saga THORSDAY, a little more general reminiscence or something like that. But yeah, happy to get this milestone under the belt with a great guest, talk about a great warband, and don't fear, there's more Saga THORSDAY to come. So definitely not done by a long shot. So all right, we'll catch you folks later. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga THORSDAY Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.